Hi everyone, it's Eleanor Valsden here from the Professional Beauty Group. Welcome to our Upskills series. Today's masterclass is sponsored by BaByliss Pro. And for more information about BaByliss Pro, you can go to babyllisspro.co.uk or click the link in our comments. But this morning we are joined by Sam Burnett, owner and creative director of Hair and Bone, and an award-winning salon at the British Hairdressing Business Awards 2020. Welcome, Sam.
Hi, how you doing? It's good to see you.
It's great to have you with us. Hope you're doing well this morning.
Thank you, doing great. Cheers.
Amazing. So for everyone watching today, we have a styling tutorial lined up for you all. And if you've got any questions that I'd like to put forward to Sam during the live, you can comment on Zoom or Facebook. But without any further ado, can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be showing us today, Sam?
Sure. So today I decided to, I love like big hair. I love like quite sexy, powerful hair. So what I decided to do was using a block, I'm going to demonstrate how to create, using a classic tonging setting technique, how to create that kind of big, sexy Barbarella hair. I'm then going to show you how to brush that out and dress it to give it a more modern kind of editorial finish. So sort of think, I don't know, like Jeremy Scott when he did that kind of 60s beehives that brushed out. So that kind of feeling.
Amazing, sounds great. So yeah, if you've got any questions for Sam as we go, do pop them in and we'll put them forward. But over to you, Sam.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to just start off by telling you what I've done so far. I've just worked with, I washed the block, started off, and actually this was fresh out the box, so I gave her a bit of a haircut. Just a quick kind of one length, long kind of round layer, a little bit of shape in the front. Then it's really important for me, I like to prep the hair as much as possible. So when doing any kind of styling, hair up or dressing at shows or in the salon, I tell everyone, I always really push this message of prep is so important. So I've used a volumizing shampoo. I didn't use any conditioner, but I used a light kind of prep spray, which has got a moisture in it. Then some heat protection. Then just using like your sort of classic kind of ceramic or like denim style brush. I've just worked using the Italia Brava hairdryer from BaByliss, just really working, just using the brush to get lots of root lift, focusing on the roots really everywhere. Just getting lots of volume and lots of body. Then using a round brush, like a natural bristle brush, using the hairdryer on a slow speed and medium heat. Just really just refining some of those ends. You can see I've just smoothed it out a little bit, so I've got a nice smooth texture to work with. But really the tongs, the thing that's going to be doing all the work. And I'm really excited actually because my favourite size tong is a 25mm tong, and I always work with the BaByliss kit, but they've just launched this 9000 styler, which is cordless. So this is fantastic. We were just talking about it before we came live, and just saying how amazing it is for shoots, when you're on location. It's brilliant for clients as well because it removes the wire. So when they're working on different sides of the head, it's much easier to work with. So I'm just going to turn that on now. And the great thing about this is it does heat up fairly instantly, and it's got 3 heat settings. I'm going to pop it onto the highest heat setting, which is 180 degrees. And so just while that's warming up, I'll just show you what I've done so far. I'm going to start off on this top section. So when I'm tonging or setting anything, I always start at the top because that's the bit, the top and the front, because that's the bit I want to cool, have the most amount of time to cool down. And also it's just quicker rather than like lifting everything out the way and sectioning from the bottom. Start from the top, so it just eliminates that fiddly part of moving the hair out of the way. That's something I've definitely learned working backstage at Fashion Weeks. So I'm just going to start on this top section. I'm going to split this into 2. And the reason I've left 3 sections out is I've left one at the back, one at the front, and one on the top because they're 3 different tonging techniques. So all through the top, I've used the technique I'm going to show you now. And it's kind of a classic barrel set. So what you want to do first is just make sure that you've brushed all the hair through so you haven't got any tangles, just really protecting the integrity of the hair. you'll notice I'm really bringing the hair forwards, because when I wrap this hair around the tong, I'm going to roll it so it sits on top of itself, much like you would with a classic set if you're looking for volume, because the key area for this top is lots of volume on the roots. So I'm going to just start, like I said, bringing this hair forwards, then taking the tong. Yeah, it's nice and hot. Just checking. Then you can see I've started off not quite close to the root, but each time I wrap the hair, I'm bringing that tong down to really get some heat on those root areas. And I'm just using a flat wrapping technique, which is very classic. So it's more about the volume than width at this point. You'll notice on the sides I work slightly differently because I want to create a little bit more expansion. And because, even though this is a really classic technique, you'll notice I'm leaving the ends out slightly, and I'm just sort of wrapping those back in to create a little bit of heat so the ends don't get too curly. Just feels a little bit more modern, and it gives it, it means it's less work afterwards trying to brush out those curls on the ends.
Amazing. We've had a couple of questions in already, Sam, so I'll shout them out as we go.
Yeah, I thought I'd pause then. I realised I hadn't stopped talking. So.
Awesome. No, it's all good. No, I don't want to interrupt you. Yeah. So Mary would like to know, would you typically not condition the hair on a model or client too?
So I did use a conditioner, but I did it rather than at the backwash, because I didn't want the hair to be too silky. I used like a leave-in conditioning spray. So I personally used KMS. It's called Moisture Repair. And it's a bit like a primer or prep, but it really moisturizes the hair. And because out of this look, I want to create loads of volume and lots of body, I've got that in mind right from the offset. Whereas if I was going for a very sleek kind of 90s Versace, very graphic kind of straight look, I would use a shampoo and a conditioner that would tame the hair a lot more and create more flatness. So that's the reason I didn't use a classic conditioner for this look.
Brilliant. So for this one, we want something that's a bit more lightweight.
We want oomph and guts in the hair, which is exactly why I used the slower speed on the hairdryer. I personally use a nozzle when I'm prep drying, just because I like to have the control. And even though we want the body, I still want to smooth the cuticle of the hair, but I use a slower speed again, so we keep some of that guts and natural body in the hair.
Brilliant.
So this section I'm working on now is going to be exactly the same. So you'll notice I'm just going to tilt the head forward slightly. It just helps me to really get in at that root area and get the volume that I'm looking for. So again, just pulling the hair forward, just making sure that we've removed all the knots and tangles. And then just putting the tong in a couple of inches above the roots, and you'll see I'm moving the hair as I wrap it around, just so, again, we're encouraging more movement and we're not going to create any dents or any unwanted marks in the hair. And then I just move that right the way down to the root to get as much volume and lift there as possible.
How do heated products help to prep the hair before styling?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. How do heated products help to prep the hair before styling?
How do the heated products help to prep the hair? So the heat for me is always about the integrity of the hair. So it's always about protecting the heat, protecting the condition of the hair. So I've used, the first one was the moisture to just help with the detangling and to prepare the hair to allow the other products to travel through the hair evenly. Then I use some heat protector. So that just helps to protect the hair and it gives it a nice finish. And then I've worked with a volumizing mousse, and I've been quite liberal with that. I've used quite a lot, and you'll probably notice actually when I brush it out, there's quite a lot of guts in the hair when I'm working. And that just really allows the tools to do their job. And when you're applying the hold product, in fact all products, it's quite important to work section by section as you come through the hair. So if I was on a show or in a salon, I'd probably have an assistant just holding the hair and sectioning for me. So today I did work by myself and I sectioned off. I just probably take a section, maybe even smaller than that, and then about a golf ball amount of mousse or foam, and then start at the root and just work that all the way down the hair, and then just repeat that all the way through the head. So make sure you've got lots of hold.
Amazing. And what temperature do you have the tongs set to? Was it 180 that you had this one set to?
I've got them at 180, yes. 180 is a really good temperature for encouraging the hair to take the hold. And because we've prepped it with the mousse, that's plenty of heat actually. So moving on to this back section, you can see I've actually taken quite a large section here. Through the top, I've worked just a nice profile section. Then at the back, you'll notice I've kind of brickworked a little bit, so there's not a definite line anywhere. So that just prevents any big gaps in the hair when you start to style it. So you'll notice the difference on this back section. I'm not trying to create as much root lift, so I'm going to start tonging much lower down. And I'm going to angle the tong diagonal downwards. And what that's going to do is it's going to maintain more of the length within the hair, whilst giving a nice curl. I don't know if you can see. So we're just starting at a much lower angle, still wrapping the hair in a flat direction. And I'm going to leave quite a lot of these ends out, you can see here. And I'm just going to really move the tong back and forth, and then wrap the ends in and then out again, in and then out again. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to create some bend on the ends, but I don't want the hair to be too dolly. Remember, this is a modern version of Barbarella. I say that, when I take it all out, it's probably going to be really tight and massive. So we'll see how we go.
Awesome. So for everyone watching, keep sending your questions in. And if you want to watch this back at any point, we'll have this uploaded onto our YouTube, Facebook and Instagram as well. So if you want to rewatch it back, you can. What are some of the common mistakes that people make with curling tongs, Sam?
I think often some of the common mistakes are having the tongs too hot when you don't need to. A lot of the time, people clamp the hair at the ends, and like you see how I'm rolling this up in my fingers now, they clamp the hair at the ends and then they roll it back up. And that's not necessarily a mistake, but when you're trying to create lift from the roots, you're not going to get enough heat at that starting point at the root. So that can be a mistake that some people make. And also, I think sometimes being afraid to use a smaller tong. So if you want, you should always use a couple of sizes smaller than you think you need for the curl that you want. So that can often be a mistake. Not leaving them in the hair long enough to create enough heat throughout the hair. So you want to make sure that the heat distribution works all the way through the hair really nicely. That's one of the really great things about the 9000 styling tong actually, is because it's got it's called, let me try and get this right, it's a micro heating matrix heater. So the heaters perfectly form the shape of the barrel inside. So what that means is you don't get any hot spots or any cool spots in the tong. You've got an even heat all the way through. So it just means you've got real confidence that you're going to get even heat all the way through the hair when you're working.
Amazing. We've had a question from Susan who's asked, if the hair is very thick and wavy, would you still use a low setting?
I think with this particular tool, the 180 is the highest setting, and I think that is hot enough to achieve anything that you need to. It's all about the prep. So if it's thick and do you say wavy hair or tangly?
Yeah, thick and wavy hair. Sorry, the question was, if the hair is very thick and wavy, would you use a low speed? Sorry, not setting speed.
Or a low speed on the hairdryer? Yes, I would, because you want, that's brilliant. Thick wavy hair is fantastic for a look like this because you've naturally got the body built in. So all you're really doing is just trying to smooth out the cuticle a little bit and get the root lift. The mistake a lot of people make is when they're tonging is they get the hair really, really straight and flat, and then they go in and try and tong it, and you're just putting back in what you've taken out. And actually a lot of the beauty in like big bouncy hair, when you really think about the 60s and the 70s, is its floatiness and its lightness and its fluffiness. And you can't really recreate that. I mean, you can to a certain degree, but you're making life a lot harder for yourself by removing that natural movement and texture. So it's about supporting what's there. So if it's very frizzy hair, you might want to use a little few drops of oil when you're prepping. So like you would approach anything, just assess the hair type before you start. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
So now just working through to the sides. So through the top, we were really trying to create volume and root lift. So we were over directing our section to sit back and create body. Through the underneath, I used a diagonal back to maintain the length in the curl and create a slightly longer, more open wave. Now through the front, this first section, because we're working from the top down, I'm still going to create a certain amount of lift in my hair, but I'm going to lower my angle slightly so we get fluidity from the top coming into the sides. We don't want loads of volume here, then it's super flat. So I'm going to work a slightly diagonal back section because it's just going to help when the curl comes out. That's just going to help push the hair off the face. And I'm going to use a lower angle to get my volume, and again just a classic flat wrap, moving the tong as I go, just to ensure we don't get any marks in the hair and to create a really nice even heat distribution. And again, you'll notice I'm just sort of leaving those ends out slightly and just wrapping them open and out. Can you see? Oh, it's my big arm in the way. No, that's good.
No, we can see. Sarah would like to know, is there a reason why you use a tong rather than a wand?
Because I'm old. No, jokes. I mean, I've always worked with a tong, and it's quite funny because even if I'm using a tong like a wand, I still tend to use a tong, and I do think it's just force of habit. I do definitely think there's a place for a tong because you can, if you want a tighter curl on the ends, where the a wand, they slightly narrow towards the end. You're encouraging to get more curl on the ends, but for a look like this today, because we're really looking at getting volume and a more sort of sexy brushed out curl, we don't necessarily need to get tighter curl on the end. So it's really just the right tool for the right job. And you'll notice now when I come to wrap this, I'm just going to check, and you can see already what an amazing curl that's put into the hair. Just put a couple of fingers underneath, and then you just wrap around. And this just gives you a little bit of control about how you want the curl to set. So you can use a tighter section or a looser section, depending on how tight you want the curl to sit.
Amazing. And what tips can you pass on to clients who regularly use heated products to style their hair?
I think tips I would say to any heated tool of a client is to make sure that you're using heat protection. Get a good product that's going to last in the hair. So if you re-tong the next day, then you've got something that's going to allow you flexibility. I would say try not to use them every day. We really want to promote good condition within the hair. So making sure that you use heat protection, try not to use it all the time. And just to make sure as well that you're not, like I've just said before, you're not spending ages using a hairdryer and getting the hair really hot and blow drying it out and then tonging it or then using irons. Just try and think about the end result that you want. So if you want more body and a softer look, don't over blow dry it before you use the tong. So just try and work with a tong that's going to be best for the look that you're after.
Amazing.
And also as well, I think using a smaller size tong on a lower heat rather than a bigger tong and lots of smaller sections on a hotter heat, and then dress the hair out is faster, and it means you're applying less heat to the hair. So you can get lots of really great results by changing the size of your section and the size of your tong.
Some really good tips there. And what kind of styling services do you offer at the salon, Sam?
What sort of styling services? So we have a everything really. We're really well known for colour and for cutting and styling. So we offer regular blow drying services. We do have like an express service menu as well, where you can have like an express blow dry. We do hair up. We offer a red carpet service where we can go to people's hotels or to their houses to prep them for events, things like that as well. Hair up, bridal hair, so a whole range really.
Amazing stuff. So we've got loads more questions coming in, Sam, so I'll shout them out as
Brilliant.
we go. Owen says, hi,
good.
Sam. Does the brush that you're using to handle the hair between tonging make a difference? What makes you choose what type of brush?
That's a really great question, so thank you, Owen. Yeah, I'm working with a natural bristle brush. This is a Mason & Pearson. And yeah, it makes quite a big difference. So this is a natural bristle. So again, this isn't going to create too much tension on the hair when I'm brushing it through. It detangles the hair really nicely, and it can be used to create volume and body. This is quite a nice, it's got like a few plastic bristles as well, which is really good for detangling. So if you use this compared to a ceramic brush, for example, you might get a little bit more static with something like that, or the bristles may be too tight. So yeah, I use this because it gives the most natural finish to the hair.
Amazing, thanks Owen for your question. And Carrie would like to know which make and model is the training head. What is her name, as it looks a good length?
Her name is Vanessa. So she was about 1.5 inches longer. I gave her a quick trim this morning. But the ends were a little bit sensitized, which is why I took them off. It's from Pivot Point, and it was like the medium wave, so quite nice to work with. And the stand is also Pivot Point as well. I do like working with their blocks because they're consistently good. So I'm going to start releasing the sections now. Just letting those fall down. And I think you'll notice actually that I wasn't holding the tong on the hair for too long, so maximum 10 seconds at 180 degrees. And it just shows you get really good hold from that. You don't need to use excessive heat for a long period of time. If you think about your technique and your section sizes, and you've prepped the hair really well with a good hold product. I used a mousse today, but sometimes I would use, I'll let that one cool down a little bit more. So you could use a sea salt spray or some sort of waving product as well.
Awesome. Julie would like to know, do you wear a heat glove?
I don't actually. I think I've just got asbestos fingers now after all these years of using tongs. But I mean, they are good if you're not as experienced with them, then you can do. But I don't often burn my fingers. So you'll see, actually, one thing I didn't mention was this front section here. Everything else I brought back. This front section I brought forwards. And I haven't pinned it up because I wanted to create more of a modern feeling. So I wanted to create a little bit more flatness in this front section. So I didn't want to create too much lift away from the face. Normally I would leave these in a bit longer to cool down. So, but I think we've got a good amount of hold there anyway. So I'm going to let them out.
It's looking good. Freya would like to know what type of brush would be best to dress the hair out with afterwards, and what products would you apply to the hair to finish? So
I'm going to perfectly timed question as well. That's what we're doing. So I'll start off using my fingers first, just to see what we've got going on. But you can see already just a natural volume. We're already getting at that root by using the tong in a barrel formation. So once I've used my hands just to gently just open this all up and see where we are, I'm then going to use the Mason & Pearson brush again, so any kind of natural bristle dressing brush, and I'll go back through the hair with a texture spray, I'm going to use the All Bay Texturizing Spray. And what it does is it just bulks the hair out, gives it lots of volume and lots of body and pliability. Then I'm going to use a pintail comb to use a bit of backcombing around the crown to give us that kind of real sassy Barbarella kind of feel.
I love it. I can't wait to see it finished.
I mean, I don't know why she's getting dressed up. She's got nowhere to go, is she, at the moment?
Oh, well, she looks fab.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is actually quite a good point to make, that one thing I see a lot of stylists or clients as well, they set their hair and they're afraid to touch it, but really you want to give it a really good shake out at the roots, because this is what breaks it all up, and it kind of brings it to life, and it gives it its own feeling and its own identity, and also it gives it that more salon polished finished look, or that more fashion look. Anything that's kind of, you can see the set too much, it doesn't look as polished or as expensive or as professional. So you can see I'm really shaking it out. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to get a little bit of a texture spray. So this is a bit like a dry shampoo with added grip and hold. Shall I hire her up a bit? She's a bit away.
The volume's amazing.
It's good, isn't it? And that's literally, you saw there was probably about, I don't know, 10 to 12 sections. So it's really quick. You can do this in the salon. Once it's been prepped, you know, I might get an assistant to wash, prep this with mousse, blow dry it. You can do this in half an hour in the salon once you've got that prep in. So you'll see I'm going to start again underneath, because we often forget about the underneath of the hair when we're working. And I'm going to blow the texture spray up, because again, we want to create volume. We're not trying to smooth it down. When you're using smoothing products, it's roots to ends, and you angle it down the hair shaft to smooth the cuticle. We want to bulk this out a bit, so we're going up the hair shaft and we're coming from underneath.
Charlotte would like to know, does she have layers to create the Barbarella look? And do you think this look is going to come back into fashion?
I think it's been creeping back into fashion for a while. Layers are becoming very, very fashionable again. It's been one length for a long time. But I've been predicting this sort of 60s revival for a while, and you're seeing it at shows like I mentioned before, Moschino and things like that, where they're doing these sort of beehives, more structured looks. There's lots of shows on TV, like period pieces at the moment, where there's kind of like these tighter fitting here and like these dressed chignons at the back. So I do think we're definitely seeing a resurgence to a bit more glamour, a bit more dressed up hair as well. And yes, to answer the question, I did put some layers through this, but I just did a very long round layer, and I just did a little bit of a almost like a grown out fringe, and then a fake blend into the forward graduation at the front.
Amazing. And what was the spray that you used, Sam?
It's All Bay Texture Spray. It's called Dried Texturizing Spray by All Bay.
Amazing, thank you. Had a few questions about which one it was.
Yeah. So you'll notice I'm not really brushing out the underneath as much as the top. I'm just going to use now the natural bristle brush just to smooth out some of the surface. Now, if you wanted to at this point, you could really make this very 70s and kind of reset a few areas with the pins and reheat, but I want to keep her a little bit more natural. It always makes me laugh. She's definitely got a natural side parting, and I always think, how do they have their own personality when they're mannequins? It's quite funny. So just to add a little bit more, I kind of guess, excitement, I'm gonna put a little bit of back combing through the top there. Just gonna come down the front and have a look.
Chloe would like to ask, what free tips would you have for people who are new to the hairdressing industry?
What pro tips?
or tips for anyone that's new to the hairdressing industry.
I think some good tips if you're just entering the hair industry is to, I think you've got to be aware that it's gonna be a commitment. It doesn't happen overnight. If you want to really be good, then you need to take the time to learn the foundations really well and inside out, and be willing to put in the time to learn, to be enthusiastic, be interested, learn about the industry, know who's known for what different skill sets, and engage with that, and practice. You can't practice enough. And watch when you're in the salon, or when you're working, assisting somebody, or you've got someone in your team that you really relate to, that you love the way they work. Just watch them, get your eyes on what they're doing. And when you're watching somebody work, don't just sort of stand and engage in the conversation. You should always stand. A really good tip, it was good for me because I'm quite tall. If you're shorter, it's a bit harder, but I would always stand behind a stylist, so my eyes were where their eyes were. So I would always see what they were doing. So I think that's a really good tip. And also, once you have learnt those rules and you start to figure out what your own style is really, be inspired by the people, but always try and come up with your own ways of doing things as well, and have your own kind of inspirations when you're working.
Amazing, great advice.
So I'm just going to put a little bit more volume in the crown area because I think she's looking pretty good, but we're just going to give her that little bit of extra panache. So I'm going to work with a little bit of a texture spray. So I'm just going to tilt the head back to show you how I'm going to section. I mean, you can already see she's got great volume, but what I want to do is create a little bit more lift in this crown area to give it that kind of Barbarella feel. So I'm going to start using a semicircle sectioning. And the reason for the semicircle is we're going to create more density in the center, and it's gradually going to fade out as we come through. And I always find it's quite an ergonomic shape. So it's a really good way, especially when you're new to anything in hairdressing. So coloring, anything ergonomic, kind of rounder head hugging shapes are going to be easier to work with and easier to blend. So that's why I'm using this almost like a quarter moon sort of shape through here. And I'm going to tip it to the side so you can see, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to backcomb the hair really well without creating damage, and also backcombing that's easy to brush out once you're finished with it. So I'm going to start at the top here in a slightly semicircle section. Again, I'm going to bring the hair forwards because I want to get the volume right in here at the roots. So when I work with a back comb, what you don't want to do is just frantically up and down. You want to come in and down, comb out, in, down, comb out, in, down, comb out. So when you're working quickly, it doesn't look like you're doing that, but the reason for that is that when you come to brush it out, you can get the hair out really easily. You're not causing any knots or any damage. So, I mean, obviously that's really helpful for clients. So I'll do it slowly so you can see, but it's sort of in and down and out. And really lots of height at the base there. And again, following with another semicircle section, slightly wider. A light puff of powder. Again, just nice and backcombed into the root. I like really big hair, so I get a bit carried away sometimes.
I love it, it looks great.
This is the sort of moment when you're prepping back, like on a photo shoot, and you go, actually that looks really cool like that, quickly shoot it. It looks like a, I don't know, like a Vogue cover or something. And I often think that's how these things happen. Like when you're on a shoot, you might have had loads of hair pieces in all day and you've been doing a specific look, and you pull them all out and the hair's all crazy, and you just sort of put it there and shoot it because it looks amazing.
It's like a case of serendipity, isn't it? It's something that you didn't intend to do, but it works.
I think that's all often the best things, aren't they, when they happen by accident? Happy mistakes.
Absolutely. And we had a couple of questions about the powder that you're using, Sam. What one is it?
Again, this is all Bay. Another product I really like to work with, KMS do like a liquid dust, which you can blow dry in beforehand, which is like amazing for getting lots of volume and expansion.
Amazing. And if you had to pick one tool, what would you pick? What would be your go-to?
My go-to tool is BaByliss Pro 25mm titanium curling tong. So that's why like I was saying to you earlier, I was so excited when they brought this out because it's my favourite size. So I've got them in my kit. So it's brilliant when I'm on set or location. So I guess I've got two favourites now. Or maybe this one tops it because it's cordless. So
yeah, it's handy having the no wires around.
It really is, actually. Especially when you're demoing as well, because you're not trying to then keep the wire out of somebody's face or out of the screen.
Tripping up.
So you're seeing now, by getting that tonging that I was doing at the start, really focusing on getting the volume into the root, you can see how easy just that very gentle backcombing, how it's just really just adding to the shape that I'd already put there.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
Looks great, doesn't it?
So cool.
So yeah. And if you wanted to, you could carry this on throughout a lot more of the hair, but I think keeping it a bit narrower throughout the sides and the underneath just gives it that slightly more modern feeling. So it's more intentional rather than just this huge kind of period or more set look. I will just blend this a little bit. Just use the back comb there on the brush. There we go. I'm not sure how long I've been. So then I'll just finish off with a tiny bit of, I would normally finish off with hairspray, but I haven't got any to hand, so I won't.
That looks really cool. And could you do that with a middle parting or as a side parting?
I think it would look great with a centre parting as well, actually. Makes it a little bit more dramatic. But like I said, I do tend to work with the natural full whenever I'm working in any situation, cutting, styling, unless there's a specific look that we're going for. So you can see here that the centre parting would look really great, actually. We'd need to just apply a little bit of heat to set it.
I've had a couple of questions in about back brushing versus back combing. Which is better, and have you got any more tips?
So back combing, I would generally say would be more for your root area. And it's going to be depending on the thickness of the teeth. You'll see this is like your standard kind of pintail. If you use something wider like this, you can maybe use this through the mid-lengths and ends because you're going to have less tension. So the difference really is with a comb, you're going to get more tension, so you can build up a stronger structure. So I would tend to use a comb more at the base where I want to get more volume and more hold. Then working through the ends, if I wanted to create a bit more volume through the underneath, I'd probably come underneath the hair and just really gently just tease this up so I'm not disturbing the top surface of the hair too much, and then just very gently brushing that out again. So that, I guess, would be the difference. I would always use a natural bristle brush if I was back combing hair or back brushing hair. Yeah, so it does work in the centre, but she's been blow dry to the side, so I'm going to put it back.
Yeah, the natural parting.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I don't know, have we got much time? Should I show you how to quickly change this into a hair up look as well?
That sounds great. Yeah, we've got probably up to 20 minutes. So let's
fantastic. Do it. Brilliant. So, I mean, you could spend a bit of time refining this a little bit more. Something else that might be quite exciting to do if you were doing this for a show would be to, you know, we could spray lots of hairspray into these root sections and then use a net to keep this very flat. Which would be quite nice. But I think what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to work and just show you a very quick kind of chignon technique just to bring that back through. So I'm going to leave this section out of the way for a minute at the front. You don't need to be too careful about this. Like, it's not very neat sectioning. We're not cutting, we're doing a hair up. So we're just going to leave that out the way. And this is something that I teach my clients how to do as well. So they can do this if they've got a night out or they're going to a day event at the races and they want to just change it up in the evening. So it's very, very quick. So rather than doing your classic sort of, just going to leave the top section out the way as well. So the area with backcomb, we're just going to leave that out the way.
Samantha would like to know, are BaByliss bringing out, or do they have any plans to bring out smaller sizes in the cordless?
That's a good question that I don't actually know the answer to, I'm afraid. I could definitely try and find out and then post afterwards if we know the answer.
Amazing. So it's the 25mm that you like, isn't it?
This is the 25mm, yeah. Amazing. They also do have a wand as well, which is also excellent. I don't have it here to show you, unfortunately. So they do have a cordless wand as well, and a cordless styler, which is, I guess, effectively a straightener, which you can use to curl as well, because it's got a curved barrel, which I do like. I've got 3 of those in my kit, so I've always got them charged up. So I'm literally going to use this hair here, and rather than pinning it in a traditional way, I'm going to just twist it. I don't know if you saw that. Just twist that all the way up, and then back around on itself. So it's a bit like a really nice little neat chignon, but quite high up, because we're going to use it to create some volume. And I'm going to get some nice pins. And I'm working with these sort of, oh, hang on. These French pins. They're quite thick, so they're very strong. So they're going to really do a nice job to secure everything into place. And we're just going to come in and just secure that with 1, maybe 2 pins, I think. And what you want to do, you can see, don't worry too much about if there's loose hair here. You're going to grab the hair and then kind of pin back underneath, just to make sure that's nice and secure in place. That's 2 pins. Then we will bring the sides in.
When you can, could you show us the sectioning clips that you're using? And another question we've had on that, do you only use 1 clip on each section?
What are we talking about, the set now, or?
I think it might have been the set, yeah. Yeah,
so these are, I get these from a website called sessionkit.com. And the reason I like these is that they're very flat, so they don't mark the hair too much. I think you can get these from different wholesalers. Some of them are, they have ridges in them. Just trying to see if I can show you an example. So when you get these, just make sure that they're quite flat and there's no ridges, because then they don't mark the hair as much. And depending on where the section is, I might use 1 or 2. If this was going to be left in and it was set backstage, I'd probably put 2 in, 1 either side. For the purpose of today, I probably used 1 because I knew I'd be having to take them out to demonstrate, and she wasn't going to be moving around.
Awesome,
so then,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Beverly says these were the only clips we had in the 70s.
Which Beverly is that?
That is, oh, where's it gone? Beverly Nita.
Oh, yeah. But that's all you needed, right?
And Chloe has asked, oh, sorry.
It's okay, go on.
Chloe's asked, would you use the same or similar would you use the same or similar techniques when doing this style on shorter or medium hair?
Yeah, I'd use exactly the same technique. Depending on the type of hair, you might adjust the type of, the size of the tong that you use. But yeah, I'd use the same technique. And actually, on mid-length and shorter hair, this twisting section for the hair up is brilliant because it just holds everything into place. And you know, and this is like a really quick. I think one of the things that people often they can overthink hair up sometimes, and it's trying to make it too perfect. I love hair that feels a little bit less considered. You know, like this isn't the classic way. I mean, there is a technical way to do a chignon like this, and it involves a lot more structure and curvy grips. But this is just a really nice, quick way that people can have a bit of fun with their hair. Something that doesn't take a lot of time. I think I trained in a salon where very classic techniques were taught. And then I've worked in fashion, and I'd say I was almost a bit of a self-taught hair upper. So I found out my own ways. So I use a lot of classic techniques, but also stuff that I've just sort of tried out. And I think I get that a lot from working on shoots and things as well, because sometimes there's photographers like, do something different, and you've got like 2 minutes or 5 minutes on set. So you kind of just start playing around with stuff that's a lot quicker. And you realise you can actually get some really great results from that still. So this top section now, we've already got our back combing in there. Ooh. So I'm going to just lift that up, and I'm almost going to just roll this down now from the top. And then just open that up a little bit and pin that into place.
That looks great.
Need to pin her in.
Just so everyone knows as well, you will be able to watch this video back. We'll keep it on our Facebook page, and also it will be uploaded onto our YouTube and IGTV channels as well, so you can watch it back.
Yeah, so again, I'm just literally using a few French pins. I'm using smaller ones now. Exactly the same style, but they're just a little bit more discreet. When I first started doing hair up, I used curvy grips constantly. Because they've got quite a strong hold, you feel like they're going to be safer, but actually they can end up weighing the hair down a bit, and they can be a little bit uncomfortable for the wearer. So I do find, again, back to that, talking about getting the prep right. So using the right amount of volume products, getting a really good tong set, getting the foundations right. You know, if you're looking for something with body and texture, when you're pre-blow drying, keeping the natural movement and body in the hair, giving it some guts with some heat products, and then a lot of the work's done for you, and then you're just sort of really playing with the shape. So you can see now I'm starting to just pull these sides up a little bit so it blends a bit better. But this to me feels like quite a modern, slightly more graphic take on your classic kind of beehive. We're seeing stylists like Guido and lots of these sorts of shapes coming out of Fashion Week at the moment. And this, you can see, was done with no padding. It was purely the tonging and the back combing. So just imagine if you put some padding in this as well, you could really go to town. We're just leaving a little bit of a face framing loose piece through here. A couple more pins. I'm going to grab some hairsprays just on my sofa over there. So I might jump out of screen for 2 seconds.
Go for
That's
it.
okay. Right.
And if you've got any final questions for Sam, do put them in, because we're coming towards the end, so we can put them forward.
So I think a nice tip when you're working, again, down to getting the prep right, if the preparation's right, you shouldn't have to rely on the hairspray too much. It's just a nice thing to finish off with and just to hold everything in place. If you're relying on the hairspray too much, you might just want to revisit your tonging and your prep with the product to make sure you've got enough hold in there. But you can see I'm just lifting those sides up and then using the spray to blend that in to give it quite a nice graphic feel. So I'll be a bit risky here. Yeah, we'll pull that up. And there you go, that's the finished look.
I love it, looks brilliant.
I think she's definitely ready for a big night out now.
She sure is. Is it possible to show us up close as well, Sam?
Absolutely. I've decided I didn't like that bit there. I'll take the head off and bring it over. So you can see it's just got that really nice raw kind of editorial finish to it. So it's a bit more fashion rather than your classic hair up. And I really love this kind of graphic feel where it's kind of quite flat into the volume. So it gives it that kind of uniqueness, really.
Amazing, it looks brilliant.
There you go.
Fabulous, thanks so much, Sam. We've got a final few more questions that we're going to quickly go through, if that's okay. Charlotte would like to know, does the tong have a docking station and how long does the charge last? So it comes with a really nice box set. So it comes with this set here, which is like heat protected. It's got a plug. The charging is really quite smart. This is like a magnet here. So it's literally a plug socket, a bit like for a phone charger, and it just pops on the end. To get full charge, it takes 3 hours to charge and you get 40 minutes use. So perfect when you're on set or using it away from a plug section. So yeah, you've got 3 heat settings, 160, 170 and 180. And like I said, it's got the micro heating technology. So the heaters inside the barrel wrap around the shape of the barrel, so you get consistent heat the whole way through. So you get no hot or cold spots. It's just nice and even. Amazing. Freya would like to know, what's your favourite hair up to do in the salon? My favourite hair up is, I love a classic chignon, or like something like this. It's like a really messy, very quick hair up, or a low pony and then a knot. I like working with just kind of like very loose, very quick hair ups as well. Amazing. And from a personal preference, do you prefer working on a person or a doll? And what tips would you give someone who is studying on a doll's head, prepping for real clients? I think that's a good question. I was going to say automatically a person. And actually, I think at the moment especially, I'm missing that interaction with people, like having that personal connection. And when I work, I'm very much inspired. I like to collaborate as opposed to completely direct, unless it's a specific topic we're doing for a shoot. So I like to get a sense of a person and kind of bring out that uniqueness. So I love working with people in that instance. But if we were doing, I don't know, prepping looks for Fashion Week, and we needed to practice looks, I'd often do that on a block first, because I can do it while I'm at home watching TV or I've got music on. And then I would then escalate that to one of the team. There's a girl called Jade who's got great hair, and she always gets picked on for being the test dummy for stuff. And then tips to using blocks, I think just be aware when you're heat styling, especially, obviously with a block, you're not thinking about the heat on the ears or the scalp. So just to be aware of things like that. And actually, good blocks tend to have natural fall within the hair. So just really trying to train yourself to think about the natural fall, because when you get onto real people, you're going to have to consider that for sure. Amazing. Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's session, but thanks so much, Sam, for joining us. Everyone's loved this demo, so thank you. Fantastic. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure. It's been great to have you. Thanks everyone for joining us. And if you do want to rewatch, you can tune into our Facebook, IGTV and YouTube channels and rewatch it there. But thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye guys.